My favorite singer, songwriter, and guitar player.
That must have influenced your general vibe, I suppose.
Yeah, I've definitely carried that on to this.
I'm viewed as like not a great guitarist. There'll be guitar people around the world being like, what's he doing murdering this song?
And I'm thinking, oh, just because of that, because he's my hero, and he still is, you know.
So what music inspired you to pick up a guitar? Who are your guitar guys?
Mine are probably we probably have like one in common.
Who's that?
In the summer of 1966, a young guitarist quietly changed the way the world heard the electric guitar. A Les Paul, a Marshall combo, and a comic book tucked under his arm. Eric Clapton had just created something that would ignite generations of players. The record was Bluesbreakers with Eric Clapton, but everyone knows it simply as the Beano album. Guitarists didn't just like this record, they learned from it, note by note, solo by solo. From bedroom players to arena headliners, its influence became a rite of passage. Decades later, many of the most famous guitarists in rock history still point to this record as the moment the electric guitar found its modern voice. The scene was London in early 1966. Blues clubs were booming, young British musicians were devouring American records, and John Mayall had built a revolving door band that doubled as a finishing school for future stars. That year, he brought in a fiery young guitarist who'd just left the Yardbirds.
I ran into him because we were all doubling and playing at the same clubs, and he was with the Yardbirds then. So that's where I first heard him. And then I seriously heard him on the B-side of that Yardbirds single, For Your Love, and it was, I forget the other side, but it was just a guitar feature.
The Yardbirds cut a rock tune called For Your Love, and it was a smash. Didn't matter to Clapton. By the time it was released in the spring of 1965, he had already quit the band.
Recorded at Decca Studios and released on the 22nd of July 1966, the album captured a sound that was louder, rawer, and more alive than anything British blues had put on tape before.
John was the first person I knew that was trying to write in a blues format. You know, in the Yardbirds we would always do covers, and I don't think we had much success at writing things. So, you know, it was interesting to me that John would try and write songs but remain in the blues format.
Producer Mike Vernon and engineer Gus Dudgeon made one crucial decision: turn it up. The amp was cranked to full, the valves were cooking, and the microphones were placed dangerously close to the raw. The result wasn't clean. It was glorious.
You're gonna be my little girl. You've been through 18 years of pain.
The band itself was tight. Mayall on keys, harp and vocals, John McVie on bass, laying down a grounded pulse, Huey Flint on drums, pushing everything forward with a tough swinging backbeat. And then there was Clapton, not just soloing but singing too, as heard on Ramblin' on My Mind.
I've got rambling, I've got rambling all on my mind.
On the cover, he's reading a copy of the Beano comic, a throwaway moment, but that cover gave the record its famous nickname. It didn't need marketing. The guitar did the talking.
From the time that you left the Yardbirds and joined up with John Mayall and company, your head seemed to change tremendously as far as your music was concerned. What kind of things were happening to your head then?
Well, I really didn't change as much as you probably think, because it's not really, an individual change. I was just put into a different context. So, I mean, the things that I was doing reflected differently, the context of the Yardbirds as opposed to John Mayall, is totally different. One is pop and one is, was then even more earthier blues than it is now, the stuff he played then. And, it was just, I just played the same things, but they just sounded different.
Much of the magic lies in one instrument, a 1960 Gibson Les Paul Standard plugged into a Marshall model 1962 combo amp. This was one of the first times anyone had recorded a Les Paul through a cranked Marshall at that volume, and it changed the sound of rock overnight. The sustain on Hideaway, the biting attack on All Your Love, the molten runs on Steppin' Out. It wasn't just loud, it was expressive, bending and singing like a human voice. Guitar magazines would later call it one of the classic archetypes for how an electric guitar should sound.
So what goes through your mind when you're about to start a solo?
I go through all kinds of, and you've got a brief span of like 10 seconds before, you've stopped singing and you think, right, I've got to play something now, and you go through 100 different changes in your head about what approach you're going to take. And usually, by the time you've gone through those changes, it's time.
Every modern Les Paul player is chasing some version of what Clapton stumbled upon that spring. It wasn't just gear either. Clapton's phrasing was economical but lethal. He had a knack for leaving space, letting the amp breathe, letting the notes bloom. American bluesmen like Freddie King and Otis Rush were his blueprint, but this was something different. British, louder, unapologetic. For many players who came after, learning the Beano album wasn't optional, it was the entry exam. One of the first to say it publicly was Mick Taylor. Long before his years with the Rolling Stones, Taylor sat at home with his guitar and wore out his copy. In his own words, "I'd learned the Beano album note by note." That grounding got him a spot in Mayall's own band when Clapton moved on.
I've never been as nervous in my life. Because I was following in the footsteps of Eric Clapton and Peter Green.
Then came Gary Moore, who often cited it as a key influence. He once said, "John Mayall's Bluesbreakers were a massive influence on me personally, particularly the Beano album with Clapton." Moore's tone, fierce and lyrical, was one of the most direct descendants of Clapton's sound.
That must have influenced your general vibe, I suppose.
Yeah, I've definitely carried that on to this. I enjoyed playing in that style again.
Across the Atlantic, teenage guitarists were doing the same. Eddie Van Halen spent his early years in California working out Clapton's solos from records. He said it bluntly, "Clapton is the only one that's influenced me." And again, I never had a guitar lesson in my life, except from Eric Clapton off of records. When Van Halen reinvented rock guitar in the late 70s, the DNA of Beano was still in there. And then there's Joe Bonamassa. He often credits this record as the spark. "I learned to play blues guitar just from playing along to the Beano album," he said. "Eric Clapton was the conduit for me."
Eric Clapton, my favorite singer, songwriter, and guitar player.
Decades apart, the same ritual was happening in bedrooms around the world.
So what music inspired you to pick up a guitar? Who are your guitar gods?
Mine are probably we probably have like one in common.
Who's that?
Clapton.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Well, the thing about Clapton that's important to remember as a guitar player, it's a necessity because Clapton is lyrical. Doesn't mean he's singing lyrics, but he's playing lyrics on a guitar.
Next to me is Eric Clapton, and I'm thinking, oh, just because of that, because he's my hero, and he still is, you know. And Eric turned to me and said, so this riff at the beginning, do you want to play that riff at the beginning? And I kind of froze because I'd assumed that being Eric Clapton, he would want to do it. He goes, it's something that every guitarist would love to do, you know.
You know it's just your foolish pride, Layla. Got me on my knees.
There'll be I'm viewed as like not a great guitarist. There'll be guitar people around the world being like, "What's he doing murdering this song?"
The Beano tone didn't just inspire players, it shaped the tools they used. Marshall's 1962 combo became so synonymous with that sound, it's often just called the Bluesbreaker. Guitar builders and amp designers still reference it as a benchmark. That combination of creamy mid-range, glassy top, and endless sustain has been copied, reissued, and modeled more than almost any sound in rock history. Clapton never used that exact Les Paul for long. It was famously stolen not long after. But its legend grew larger than the instrument itself. In the years that followed, players like Jimmy Page, Duane Allman, and Moore carried its spirit forward. So why does a blues record from 1966 still resonate so strongly? It's partly the playing, partly the tone, but it's also the timing. Clapton captured something just before the rock explosion fully took off. It's the sound of the electric guitar stepping out of the rhythm section and into the spotlight. It's loud, but not overprocessed. Emotional, but not sentimental. Pure energy. More than 50 years later, guitarists still sit down and try to work out the phrasing, the vibrato, the sustain. No pedals, no tricks, just fingers, wood, and valves.
Fans began writing "Clapton is God" on walls around London.
For John Mayall, it was one chapter in a long career. For Clapton, it was the moment the world started calling him God. For everyone else, it was a blueprint. The ripple effect of Beano can be traced through some of the most influential guitarists in history. Taylor and Moore kept the flame alive in British blues rock. Van Halen used it as his foundation before taking the instrument into uncharted territory. Bonamassa made a career out of blending reverence with his own modern twist, and countless unknown players learned to bend a string because of that record. When people talk about the electric guitar as a voice, they're often, knowingly or not, talking about Beano. The tone of a Les Paul pushed to its limits in a small London studio on a hot day in '66. One comic book, one guitarist, one amp, and a sound that changed everything. Mick Taylor is another fantastic British blues guitar player. After learning the entire Beano album as a teenager, he joined John Mayall's Bluesbreakers. But it is his time with the Rolling Stones that brought him worldwide attention. If you want to see a documentary about his Stones years, click the thumbnail on screen.